Hello and welcome at Ijoma Onyato tonight. Nigerians decide in a historic presidential race in a ballot that picks the president. Gwoza falls on the eve of the presidential election as military overrun Boko Haram. African Union in courageous move sends observers to the northeast. And German investigators say co-pilot of ill-fated Germanwings A320 hid illness. Tonight we take an overview on the impact of the general election on the economy.
While on sports news, coach Daniel Amokachi drops 4 players as Nigeria Super Eagles leave for South Africa ahead of Sunday's international friendly match.
Well, just before we start off, we'd like to tell you that our Nigeria 2015 studios open tomorrow at 7 a.m. Do remember to join us as we keep track of the polls. It'll be at 7 a.m. that we'll open up our Nigeria 2015 studios, and we do ask you to join us as we keep track of the polls. Well, it's the eve of the presidential elections and some good news as the military today recaptured Gwoza town, which was a stronghold of the Boko Haram terrorists in Nigeria. The town, which is 135 kilometers from Maiduguri, northeast Nigeria, was occupied by Boko Haram as their headquarters. Hundreds of militants were killed in the air and ground attack, and the town has now been liberated. With this success, the insurgents have been driven from virtually all of the territories they had occupied. Our correspondent Amaka Okafor reports.
An excited spokesman for the defense headquarters announced the fall of Gwoza as promised by President Goodluck Jonathan. Major General Chris Olukolade says the headquarters of the Boko Haram sect fell to the heavy land and air operations of the Nigerian military, which has taken over the community.
Just this morning, the gallant troops of the Nigerian military in a concerted and well-coordinated land and air operations have liberated Gwoza, the headquarters of the so-called Caliphate, which they renamed Darul Hikmah. This was preceded by successful sack of terrorists from towns and villages leading to Gwoza, the main objective of the operation. Several of the terrorists have died and many of them have been captured in the process. A lot of arms and ammunition have been recovered, and the administrative headquarters of the terrorists have been completely destroyed.
A key question in the minds of Nigerians is the fate of the schoolgirls abducted in Chibok, another community in Borno State, following claims that they are in Gwoza, and this is what the spokesman had to say.
We took that down this morning, but at the moment coroner search is ongoing. When it is true, we may be able to say in definite terms who and who are the hostages that we're able to recover.
He says even though the capture of Gwoza is significant to the operations, efforts are still ongoing in collaboration with Nigerians' allies to recapture more communities along the borders.
We're working in conjunction with our colleagues in the sub-region who have been assigned specific places that are particularly along the border. We know that very soon we will also hear the outcome of their own aspect of the mission.
He gave an assurance that the military is determined to ensure that never again will any extremist group undermine the sovereignty of Nigeria, and that the operations will continue until stability is completely returned to the communities. Amaka Okafor, Channels Television News.
Now, before news of the fall of Gwoza, the president had made a nationwide broadcast where he called on all Nigerians to participate fully in tomorrow's presidential elections. He advised against violence but warned that the military will deal decisively with anyone that decides to test the will of his government. He also called on political party leaders to allow the Electoral Commission perform its constitutional duties.
This much cherished democracy of ours is about to be put to the test once again.
Coming less than 24 hours to the presidential election, the president delivers a speech aimed at encouraging Nigerians to perform their civic duties.
I urge you all to troop out en masse to peacefully perform your civic duty of voting for leaders of your choice tomorrow. As we do so, let us all, political party leaders, contestants, party members, party agents, supporters, and ordinary voters alike, be very conscious of the fact that the eyes of the entire world are on us. We must therefore comport ourselves in a manner that will further strengthen our democracy and consolidate our place in the committee of truly democratic nations.
The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, had in the past days and weeks assured Nigerians of its preparedness for the polls. And so the president appeals to all stakeholders to ensure a free and fair election.
I call on all political parties and politicians in the country to allow the free, unfettered will of our people to be expressed without any hindrance in the coming elections, in keeping with the hallowed principles and tenets of democratic governance, which we all profess. The will of the people, freely expressed through the ballot, is the bedrock of all democracies, and ours cannot be an exception. Let us all, therefore, be prepared as true Democrats to graciously accept the outcome of the elections as the rightful choice of our people, from whom all political powers in our democracy must emanate.
Without mincing words, President Goodluck Jonathan once again reassures Nigerians of his commitment to protecting lives and property of citizens.
Let me warn, however, that as President, Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, I am under oath to protect the lives of all Nigerians and the security of our country at all times. I will never abdicate my responsibility in that regard. Democracy allows dissent. It encourages differences and even fervent disagreement. But elections must never be mistaken for war or an opportunity to set fellow citizens against each other and tear our beloved nation apart. Those who may harbor any intentions of testing our will by unleashing violence during the elections in order to advance their political ambitions should think again, as all necessary measures have been put in place to ensure that any person who breaches the peace or causes public disorder during or after the elections are speedily apprehended and summarily dealt with.
Tomorrow is the D-Day, and in the words of the president, let us go out to vote peacefully and set a fitting example of political maturity for other emerging democracies to follow. Chimezie Obi-Iwawo, Channels Television News.
Also speaking on the need for peaceful elections, the Lagos State Governor Babatunde Fashola, in a statewide broadcast, asked every citizen of the state to be of good conduct before, during and after the polls. The governor also pointed out that posterity will not forgive any citizen of the state who is of voting age but fails to vote tomorrow. According to him, I know, however, that there can be no history without history makers. You, the voters, the dynamic people of the Center of Excellence, will be the history makers, end of quote. The governor emphasized that the entire world is watching and waiting as the country conducts what he calls a historic election that will set an example for the whole of West Africa and show that Nigeria can decide its affairs. Now, not many observers will brave going to the northeast for election duties, but the African Union today announced the deployment of about 84 election observers to the troubled northeast to monitor the process there. The head of the African Union Observer Mission, Professor Amos Sawyer, asked Nigerians to come out to exercise their rights. While appealing for caution by all the parties involved in the electoral process, he called on politicians to accept defeat or channel their grievances to the law courts.
We have had some observers, as I said, they've been here. since January, and they have been deployed around the country, including the Northeast. So we are monitoring around the country. We are aided by the technology that they now have to transmit messages very quickly and to be mobile, to move from place to place. And of course, we are not alone on the ground, complemented by others. The ECOWAS and others are here too. So we think there is adequate coverage. We are calling upon all the voters and the people of Nigeria to do their country proud, to go through these electoral arrangements and the voting peacefully, and after the voting to accept the results and use the courts and other mediatory channels for whatever grievances they may have. This is a great country. It has a great role in Africa. Its people are energetic and productive.
In part 2, after the break, INEC deploys more materials, also assures the nation of its readiness for tomorrow's historic exercise. That's in a moment. Do join us again.